This question is so easy. If you get it wrong, it's because you're a classic overthinker. You analyze too deeply and you think that there's hidden meanings to things. There are not. Okay, so what should we do to get this question right? Well, we don't need to really read the passages. We have read them pretty much completely for the other questions that came before this. But we just need to read the blurb, right? So always read the blurb is true on every kind of passage, right? The little piece at the beginning tells us some important information sometimes, but it's especially helpful on double passages because it usually tells us how the two passages relate. And that's what they're asking, right? What's the relationship between the two passages? So let's not read anything else. I want to show you. You should be able to get this with just this blurb. What does the blurb say? Passage 1 is adapted from Catherine Beecher, Essays on Slavery and Abolitionism, originally published in 1837. Passage 2 is adapted from Angelina E. Grimke, Letters to Catherine Beecher. So that seems like a weird coincidence. Originally published in 1838, Grimke encouraged Southern women to oppose slavery publicly. Passage 1 is Beecher's response to Grimke's views. Passage 2 is Grimke's response to Beecher. Do you think they're responding to each other to say, "Great point, Catherine. Great point, Angelina. I 100% agree with you. End of letter"? No. They clearly are going to be debating something. That's the only reason that we do this kind of stuff. So we know going in that it's probably the case that these people disagree. They're responding to each other. Now, again, we've read the passages from the other questions, so we kind of get the sense of that. But the blurb is all we need here. So what is going to be the answer? Don't overthink it. Passage 2 illustrates the practical difficulties of a proposal made in Passage 1. I guess that kind of sounds like a disagreement. Passage 2 takes issue with the primary argument of Passage 1. That is a classic definition of a disagreement. You take issue with someone. Passage 2, choice C, Passage 2 provides a historical context for the perspective offered in Passage 1. That does not sound like a disagreement. That sounds like they're helping each other. D, Passage 2 elaborates upon several ideas implied in Passage 1. No, that's not a disagreement. If they're elaborating, they're probably agreeing. So both of those choices are wrong because they just completely missed the mark of that relationship. Beyond that, there's specific things that are wrong with them, right? Does it elaborate upon anything? What would be the ideas, right? Ask yourself questions, and if you can't answer those questions, then that can't be the choice. So if you can't tell me what the implied ideas in Passage 1 are, then this is a bad choice. If you can't tell me what the historical context would be, where does she talk about history in Passage 2, that cannot be the choice. And that same thing, that same reasoning is going to apply to choice A and make it really obviously wrong. Passage 2 illustrates the practical difficulties of a proposal made in Passage 1. First and foremost, what's the proposal? Go back to the lines. You cannot tell me that there is a proposal somewhere in Passage 1. There isn't one. The proposal maybe is like women shouldn't be abolitionists. Maybe that's it. But the practical difficulties, what is a practical difficulty? That means if you were to implement this proposal, you couldn't do it for these real-world reasons. There's no practical anything. There's no real plan here. These people are just talking about higher principles. So there's no practicality at all. So the reason people pick A is it sounds like a smart answer. It's kind of like when you guys write your essays and you choose a big word just for the sake of choosing a big word. It doesn't make your writing any better. It makes you sound kind of, like you don't know what you're talking about. So B is right, because it just is a simple way of describing the relationship. They disagree. One takes issue with the other's argument. That's a disagreement. So this is a general rule as well for the SAT. We talk about strong words a lot. And practical difficulties is very strong, right? That's a phrase that has a lot of meaning. The practical reasons behind something, that's very different from just having difficulties. Practical difficulties stronger than difficulties. And so if we're ever stuck between two choices, the best bet is to go with the choice that's weaker, the choice that's more vague, that says less. Right? Notice it does not say in choice B the specific points that passage 2 takes issue with. It does not say what the primary argument in passage 1 is. It's deliberately vague. And that's good for us. We like choices that don't say a lot of stuff because then there's no stuff that can be wrong. And that's exactly why, even without reading the passage here, I would be very confident in choice B because it fits the pattern of what I'm used to seeing in correct answers for especially like these big picture kind of questions. And so, yeah, for sure, I would be confident in that as it is. But even still, the main argument in passage 1 is that abolition is not something that Southern women should be doing. Women should be influencing society by raising sons and taking care of their husbands and influencing them privately. And Grimke is like, nope. Women and men have the same rights and responsibilities, and that's our responsibility is to advocate against slavery. So they clearly disagree, but we don't need to know the nature of that disagreement to get this question right. Trust the process here. These double passages are not any harder if you know how the game is played on the SAT.